Welcome back to Get Ready News. My name is David Lindsted. This is my daughter, Emma Lindsted, as Mark Lindsted is now traveling to Israel. Hopefully this week we will get some word from him and be able to interview him from Israel. But this has been a very interesting week since last week we had the great debate with Joe Biden and Trump, and we wanted to kind of look at that and some of the things that happened today and look at that through the lens of a Bible.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here to talk about that. And I'm excited to look into what Joe Biden has been doing since the debate and how he's handling pretty much the catastrophe of what happened.
Yeah, it was quite the catastrophe. In fact, our first article is, "This is why the 25th Amendment was designed." I find this interesting. It looks like a lot of the Dems don't know whether to get behind him or to replace him. And there's even rumors, this is from the New Yorker, that they were going to replace him under the 25th Amendment.
Yeah, can we do a quick refresh on what the 25th Amendment is?
Sure. The 25th Amendment states that if a president is unable to fulfill his duties mentally, that you could vote him out and get the vice president to take his spot.
That makes a lot of sense. So how would that work, do you think, within the setting of the upcoming election then?
Well, I don't think they have much time. They're going to have to really get on this quick if this is something that they're going to do. It takes more than just doing it. It's a process you have to go through, and there's got to be court dates and hearings and stuff like that. So it wouldn't be an immediate thing. It's something they need to do if they're going to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially we can see his mental health and his mentality declining rapidly. And it's really sad, honestly, to watch him in a live setting when he doesn't have planned questions or a way to make a response beforehand.
Yeah, that's true. When he doesn't have a teleprompter, he really struggles on this. We can see his team, Jean-Claire Green, Jean-Paul, whatever her name is. Here she is saying that Biden's going to stay to the end. He plans on going on with the campaign. I know that she received a lot of questions, and one of the questions, a lady was asking a question, and she said, well, will Biden do this? And another reporter said, well, if he's awake. And it kind of made me laugh. But they're out there doing a lot of damage control on this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think just watching his interviews and him live, there's a lot of damage control to do. He says things that aren't accurate. He says things that are nonsensical. And it must be really difficult trying to keep up with him.
Yeah, I know that even CNN did a fact check on him and found out that just about everything he said during the debate was an absolute lie. And fortunately, we do have the new stuff from today when he did his live broadcast from Wisconsin, back on the campaign trail. Speaking of that, our next article says that this is make or break section for Joe Biden. He's got to either perform or get out of the way.
Yeah. Right now, I think a lot of people are starting to look at Joe Biden and say, is this the guy that we want to run for the Democrat side? Because he's really not living up to the standard that you would expect of him.
I think the press, and the shame on them, shame on the press corps for hiding this from the American people. And of course, I think the American people knew deep down inside that there really was a problem anyway. But the press really kind of swept this under the rug and hid the fact that Joe Biden was in this much of a decline.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even now when they're not trying to hide it, I still say shame, because this is really mean to this guy, you know, showing all of his mistakes and everything. We need to know it, but also I feel like we've gone from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, the thing that my mom used to say was, shame on Jill Biden for putting her husband through this. She should have said, honey, this is you're not able to do this. This is something you shouldn't do. This borders on the line of elder abuse, in my opinion.
Yeah, that was my favorite part, was she'd call it elder abuse.
Yeah. You know, they're taking advantage of a guy that doesn't have his faculties, you know. Despite what you think about Joe Biden, good or bad, he's still being taken advantage of here.
Definitely. And I don't know that he even's fully aware of it either, which makes it even worse.
Now, the next article we have shows the disparity or what's happened in the polls since there was the debate. And it's amazing that how much confidence has been lost in President Biden. It says here, the question was, do you think that the president has the mental health to be in that position? And before the debate, it was 35%, and after the debate, it drops all the way down to 27. And that seems like an awfully small number, although 35 was small to begin with. You would think that the president would be 100%. But we went from 35 all the way down to 27.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when he talks, you can listen to him and you can go, oh yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about. This sounds all right. But then you put him next to somebody who's a competent speaker and who knows what they're talking about and can actually answer questions. And all of a sudden you're kind of more like, ooh, I don't know that I really trust what this guy's saying.
Yeah, I've listened to speeches of his before, and when I first hear them, I think, well, it's not too bad. It didn't go as bad as I thought, and I re-listened to them again. It's like, wow, this is some pretty sad stuff, and we've got some examples of that coming up here shortly, just to kind of point this out. But we also see the next one there says, should he even be running for president? Now, 37% is pretty low. His approval rating and his disapproval rating is really out of whack. And here we've even dropped again. Mm-hmm. So we dropped 9 points on this factor alone.
Yep. It definitely makes you wonder if people are actually going to vote for him. Yep. And it makes you question what the upcoming election's going to look like, especially after the last election and how wacky that ended up being.
Yeah, we look at this. It says 28% think that he's fit for running for president. When you flip that around and say it the other way, 72% of registered voters think that Biden does not have the cognitive health to serve as president.
Yeah, and even better is this is from CNN.
Oh, absolutely.
Who like him.
This is CNN, and they would do anything to build him up and promote him. My thing is I realize our republic, not democracy, but our republic runs on a basis of 3 different entities, the legislative, judicial, and the president, and all those work together to run our country. And when one falls, we can kind of make up a little bit. But my fear is what does Joe Biden project around the world? Because the world is looking at us, and they're seeing that Joe Biden is not all there.
Yeah, I also look at even videos not talking about our president. Most countries don't like America anyways. This is portraying us even worse when they see our leader acting like a Roomba and our leader unable to string a sentence together. What does it say about Americans in general that we voted for this?
Absolutely. And the other thing I look at is, if you need to bring credible candidates to the floor, I don't have confidence in Joe Biden. It makes me have to vote for the other guy, regardless of who he is. No matter what I think about Trump, I have to vote for Trump because at least he has his faculties.
Yes, exactly. And at least you know that he's going to be able to have a presence.
Yeah.
Joe Biden doesn't have any presence.
Yeah, at least Trump will be at least strong in front of other people, in front of other nations, and they'll respect Trump as a person again, and hopefully respect the presidency again. Now, as stated before, we've got some excerpts of the very latest campaign speech that he's made. This is the first, I guess, public type of speaking that he's done since the debate. And I think in the next day or two, they're wanting to do a sit-down with George Stephanopoulos. So, and in that, I don't know if they're going to do a sit-down and just film the one thing in one shot, or if they're going to take and film it and cut it and splice it together. We don't know this, but this is a direct, full live event. I don't know if there was teleprompters. I didn't look, but Biden seems a lot more with it in this.
He does. But I also wonder how much of this was pre-planned and pre-written and all of that, too. Unlike the debate where he couldn't necessarily have gone to pre-written, this is a chance where he could go pre-written. Yeah,
there could be rehearsed answers because he's just going to give what I would call the party line. As much as Trump does it, too. Don't misunderstand me. Trump, they all do it. They all just go down through their points. And I would say that about the debate, too. The debate, even though what really hurt Biden is he wasn't mentally there. but each one of them were just saying their talking points. I would say that Biden had more untruths in his than Trump had in his, and understand that I think Trump had some in his too. So it's a give-take situation there.
Definitely. But I do think that he's looking a little bit better in this speech.
Yeah, I noticed that they changed the color of his skin. In the debate, he was so pasty white, he looked like it was about over for him, and now he's coming back dark. In fact, they had another one where he was even darker than this, and they're calling him the new Orange Man. So it makes me wonder, all those people that say Orange Man bad, is he going to pick up that title himself?
Yeah, I definitely think this was a direct reaction to people saying that. And you can definitely tell that it was a direct reaction.
So I've got a few excerpts of his speech here, and I just want to play them and just briefly talk about each one of them. For the most part, like I said, it was just right down the line all his talking points, and he delivered it better. I don't know if he had a teleprompter or not, but I would say that he had something to help him keep on track. But he looks wide-eyed, and he looks like he's there. So I don't know what type of what they did to get him back together, but he looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and play this first clip, and we'll talk about it here in just a second.
I got to thank somebody. Gaylord Nelson, I'm back.
Now, the reason I pulled this one out, now Gaylord Nelson is a senator or congressman from the state of Wisconsin. He's already passed. He was the guy that was one of the founders of Earth Day. But it just bothers me the way he does that. It was like he was getting ready to praise God, and his next words out of his mouth were a man.
It's very disappointing to see, especially with a later clip. He makes the sign of the cross.
Yep.
So why does he thank a man, especially one who does something so insignificant as making Earth Day?
Yeah.
Why does he thank him when he's supposedly Catholic?
Well, and I'm sure that's part of a joke and, just trying to be funny. But if you're claiming to be a Christian, I don't know that I know that he is. But if you claim it, he claims it. He claims to be this. My first thing is I would thank God, and then I would thank this guy, and I wouldn't have looked up like I was getting ready to praise the Almighty God. Yeah. I think that's my problem. If he would have said, I thank Gaylord, and he said it like this, but when he goes like this, I just don't like that.
It feels weird to watch somebody joke about religion when you aren't for sure how they feel about religion or where they fall, because it just feels mocking and it almost feels raunchy for them to do that.
Yep, I agree. And so this is the next little clip we have here.
By the way, if you wonder whether Trump has it all together, did you ever hear how he explained the 4th of July when he was president? No, I'm serious. This is true. His explanation how America won the Revolutionary War, I'm not making this up. He said in his 4th of July speech 5 years ago, he said, George Washington's army won the revolution by taking control of the airports from the British. We talk about me misspeaking. Airports from the British in 1776.
I thought this was funny. I wanted to leave this in there, and he gets a pretty dig in at President Trump. He did say this about 5 years ago, and when he said it, I thought he was joking, but he later blamed it on his teleprompter. Well, this is one mistake in I don't know how many years, and he brought this up, but what really caught me as funny is he had to explain the joke. He says it, and then he has to explain it, and that just cracked me up to no end.
Yeah, that's something that every time I make a joke to my brother, he doesn't react. He's just like flat-faced and everything. And I go, well, because you do this. And he goes, well, now it's not funny. It's like, well, you didn't find it funny to begin with. So I felt like I had to explain it.
Yeah, so I look at this and I see that either it's poor writing, and I'm pretty sure it's got to be writing, because it's said that way. But that's not an impulsive speech type of talk. Being someone who speaks, we don't normally speak like that. You speak more off the cuff. So I just thought that was funny that he would have to explain the joke, or the people that wrote the joke for him thought they needed to explain the joke, even though the crowd was laughing.
Yeah. My favorite part is he doesn't laugh at the joke until after he's explained the joke.
Yeah,
So it almost feels like that was the punchline, was explaining the joke.
that could be. You never know.
It's weird.
But so far, I mean, he's done somewhat okay. You know, he sounds like he's all there. He's got what I would call light in his eyes, if you will, and he sounds okay. So the next clip we have is he's laying out his line for how we're going to win this election. And so he's going through and he's going to start saying the normal talking points, and he's going to say some stuff here. So let's play this. This one's a little bit longer clip. It's a minute, a couple of minutes, I think so. So let me run this for you real quick.
We're going to stand up for women in America. We're going to restore Roe v. Wade, the law of the land. We're going to stand up for the right to vote again. We're going to fight for Medicare and Social Security and child care, elder care, paid leave, all which grow the economies. We're going to keep lowering the cost of prescription drugs and expanding health care for everyone. Not just. Look, we're going to protect our children from getting weapons of war off our streets. That's what we're going to do. The idea that more children die from gunshot wounds in America is so wrong. It's sick. It really is sick. We're going to keep confronting climate change. The most important, we're going to save our democracy.
Yeah, this clip has so much in it, and I like how you left the smile in at the end. It's kind of like he waits for everybody to start screaming and clapping, and then he says, "Oh, look at me, I did great." But the very first thing he says is he's going to restore the rights of women. He's going to make sure that they have the right to Roe versus Wade. What happened with that? Well, the Supreme Court said that the United States federal government was not going to be over abortion, that it was going to be pushed to every state. He did not take away the right or the ability for a woman to have an abortion. In fact, in states where it's illegal to have an abortion, if there is a problem with the pregnancy that puts the mother or the baby in jeopardy, there are things in there to allow for those situations. But that was my first thing is that he presents Roe versus Wade completely wrong.
Yeah, he definitely does. And I also find it interesting, if you're in a state that doesn't let you have an abortion, what's to prevent you from going to another state for it? Or moving? It's entirely up to you where you're living in the U.S. It's not like you're bound to this place and you have to follow that. You could move.
Exactly, and that's what Ronald Reagan would always say. You vote with your feet. You know, if you don't like where you live and the rules that you have there, then you move to the state that is so accommodates your belief. Yeah. The next thing that just really set me over the top, and if I could play the one thing all day long, it would be this. As soon as he said that, he came up and said he was going to restore the right for women to vote. And I thought, no, wait a minute. I didn't know women lost the right to vote.
Yeah, I voted last time I was able to vote. So I'd like to think that I can vote.
So it just kind of cracked me up that he was going to restore the right to vote. And I was thinking, what is he talking about? And this is the problem, is he doesn't know where he's at. He's grabbing little things here and there. He's looking at, I'm assuming, a teleprompter and trying to make it his own. And as much as I've had experience in the past with the teleprompter, and you want to, otherwise you sound rigid. Yeah. And for him to have this big of a thing to say he's going to make sure women have the right to vote, just silly, absolute silliness.
It also feels like he's trying to grab things that he's heard people talk about before, Right now, voting is a big thing with the election coming up, so he needs to talk about voting, obviously, right? So he has to find a way to pull it in, and that felt like a good place to pull it in, even though it didn't really work out for him.
Yeah, and he's bringing out all these points, all these things that most Democrats talk about and care about, and most all of them, to my knowledge, and I worked in the medical field for many years, has always been there to take care of people. And he was talking about leave time paid off and all sorts of stuff and the normal little things that the Democrats push for. and things that I'm okay with. You know, I don't want anybody to not be able to have health care. I don't want anybody to not have something. But I don't know that we need to dictate it from the federal government, that things become a right.
Yeah.
I think we're treading on thin ice by making things a right.
This definitely feels like he's trying to step beyond his boundaries, you know? He's trying to make people like him by saying he'll do stuff that he doesn't really need to have to be doing. And he's trying to get his fingers in all the pies, even though he doesn't really need to.
I find it interesting that one of the things that he really doesn't have the authority to do is forgive all this financial debt of these people that went to school. And, where they borrowed money and the government is now paying that money off. And he'll tell you that, oh, Trump is terrible because now the Supreme Court has voted that he's immune. And they talk about this immunity. Well, that immunity has always been there. If you do stuff for what you think is the right thing for the government or for the way everything's supposed to run at that time, acting as the government, then you're immune from being sued or something like that. And they're turning around and saying, well, now Biden can assassinate Trump and he's immune from the... And they twist all this stuff around and try to make things sound different than what they are.
Yeah. And it's definitely a game of, well, let me throw stuff at the wall and see what's going to stick.
That is absolutely the truth. Now, the very last part of this thing, this always gets me, and I saw a video not too long ago that was kind of coming against what I would say. My thing is we're not a democracy. If we were a democracy, we would have already failed. We are a republic, and a republic works different than a democracy. A democracy is true majority rules. If 60% of the people want to take all the money out of the treasury and put it someplace, they can do it. But in a republic, we have a balance of power. The majority just can't take and rip everything out and do something just because they want to do it. They have to follow steps and procedures.
The other thing that I find that falls in line with that people don't understand is that we vote and then our state votes for us. It's not individual votes. So sure, they might end up with more individual votes, but due to the way that the state voted determines the outcome of the election.
You know, one of the things I always thought would have been if you were going to change something to make something better on the Electoral College, I would say that the Electoral College votes would represent more truly what the state is. So if you look at California, for instance, I think they have like 54 votes. But if you went off of what the people actually voted, it would be closer to like 27 and 23 votes for Democrats and for Republicans. And you'll find out that there's actually more people doing voting conservative than you ever thought.
Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of people forget that a state isn't just the big cities either, because that's where a lot of Democrats are, and even within some of the states that are Republican, you'll find that too, you know? I think that people forget that states have area between all of our big cities, where there are people that live and people that also vote.
People that feed those people in the cities.
Now, you probably heard we had a little debate last week. Can't say it was my best performance. But ever since then, there's been a lot of speculation. What's Joe going to do? Is he going to stay in the race? Is he going to drop out? What's he going to do? Well, here's my answer. I am running and going to win again. Because we're going to go. Folks, I'm the sitting president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee. No one else. You, the votes. The voters did that. And despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for, well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race. I'll beat Donald Trump. I will beat him again in 2020. Oh, by the way, we're going to do it again in 2024.
This one just kind of cracks me up. He said, he kind of talks like he's a little bit on the sauce there, like he's been drinking a little bit. And I can't say anything. I have a stutter issue too sometimes. And he gets in there and we find out definitely he's going to be running for president, but he's going to be beating Trump in 2020. That just made me laugh so hard.
What I laugh at is after he says 2020, he pauses and you can see the wheels turning. You can see him thinking about it and he goes, and also, we will beat him again in 2024.
But Biden looked pretty with it in this. And like I said, I don't know if he had a teleprompter or not. I'm guessing that there was something. I can't see there not being something. But he looked better. He still kind of had some problems. One of the things that we like to do is we like to look at some of this stuff through the lens of the Bible. And one of the things I find in the Bible that just really speaks a lot about this is in Daniel 2:21, and it says, "And he, God, changes the times and the seasons. He removeth the kings and setteth up the kings." Now, this verse says that God is in control of the nature of climate. Climate control is God. And God promised certain things would never happen. He also puts people on the throne that he wants on the throne. Even those people that we don't agree with and sometimes we think is not right.
Yeah. I definitely like to think back on some of the stuff that Grandpa will say. You know, he'll go, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with this person getting into power, but also it's one step closer to the rapture if he isn't good for the country or it's necessary for this to happen. And my great uncle, Dr. Lindsted, always says that America has to fall. America has to be gone for end times and for all of this to be happening.
Yeah, we don't see America necessarily in the Bible anywhere. I'm not saying dogmatically it's not, but we can't find it. My last verse is Proverbs 21:1 and 2. It says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever so he will. Every way of man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts." So God is actually in control, and we can rest and know that God has everything in control. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll hope to see you next week.